back, everyone, to another episode of Sisto Says, powered by Design 2147, a New York City code and expediting company. Today, we're going to do a little bit something different. We're going to do a little solo podcast. Got a lot of things on my mind about what's going on here in New York City. So I'm glad everyone's tuning back in. So really the first topic I'd like to talk a little bit about is landmarks. As we know, New York City is filled with incredible and iconic buildings that are in the landmark system as well as that designated areas. And starting in the next several weeks, landmark applications, reviews, maps, they've updated their entire website where you could actually file applications online and review the status of your projects as well as looking at the interactive maps that they have. So going forward, this is a new system. So want to let everybody be aware of it. But also, if you do have some questions, you could always go to our website at design2147.com and you could look at all of our blogs to find any information about hundreds of topics. Our newsletter has been around since 2015. We have hundreds and hundreds of topics that are in there. They will be organized by different topics, so they're easier to find, easier to locate. And as part of that, we will be launching a new website within the next couple of weeks. So be aware of that, and please feel free to go to it and use the information that's there. As Design 2147, we take a lot of pride in being able to communicate news and things that are happening here in New York City, as well as outside the five boroughs, to keep our clients and just about anyone abreast of what's going on. As part of the solo cast, I do have Fran Volpe from Why Not You Media, who really produces our show every week. And he is going to jump in and possibly ask me some questions and expand on some topics. So, Fran, great to have you. Thank you for taking the time out to help me with this short podcast, which is the first one that, as a solo, it's my first real solo podcast talking about what's really on my mind. So thank you.
No, absolutely. I think this is a great idea because of the fact that you deal with so much on a daily basis. You're in the trenches when it comes to construction in New York City, and people see you yourself as well as your company as a hub, as a place to come and get information and learn about what's going on. So I think it'd be really good for you to kind of hit on that. You mentioned the new website, but talking about like the changing course a little bit for the company and how you really want to maintain being a front and center and a pioneer to being the place to go to for information for construction.
We've always been known for working on complex projects, and architects, developers, just all contractors call us as they navigate through New York City, as well as outside the other boroughs for our expertise. Because whether you're building in New York City or you're building in White Plains or you're building in, Riverhead in Suffolk County, building is building. So a builder could build anywhere, but an expediter and a code consultant, sometimes they don't venture out. Design has been venturing out, and what we've come to the conclusion is that the code is the code, right? Zoning is particular in each town or each county, depending on where it is, but building is building. And contractors still come back to us and say, we have this situation. But through social media, Why Not You Media has been a big part of this, change in the brand. It's also been the change in us as a company getting information out. And through social media, through podcasts, we've been able to get important topics out there. And part of that is to have consistency, to be out there. And it's not just social media, it's meeting with people, getting information, asking them, do they see it? How do they see it? When do they see it? And I think that it's brought us to a different place. One of the biggest conversations always people ask me they'll call me and say, "Hey, I want to start a podcast." And one of my guests this afternoon for one of our other shows is starting his own podcast, but he's coming back. And he's asked me a lot of questions about, well, I have to go to my boss. He's going to want to know, does it work? Does it not work? The magic is in the work. There is no shortcut. So you have to work at it and you got to love it. You got to want to do it. And part of that is that I've realized that through this podcast, I've been able to go on an interview. Last week, I went to look at a very beautiful project in Long Island City, going to be right on the waterfront, very complicated, new street being built, all kinds of stuff. And the first thing the gentleman said to me is, Sisto, I love your podcast. They are so informative. You have great guests. It's not about one topic, it's about different topics and how, even though when the guest may come on and I start the video, I'm like, how's he going to relate this to construction or development in New York City? And he goes, within a few minutes of me listening to it, I'm connected to it. I found a way. So there's been a reoccurring theme that I've been able to meet a lot of people through the podcast and through social media. And getting back to the point of should I do it, what's the metrics to define if it works? And, friend, you and I have had many conversations about it. And, what's the ROI? Oh, I'm spending this every month, but what am I getting back? What you're getting back is opportunity. And if you have opportunity, then it all depends on the next piece. But the first piece that I know for sure is our clients that have been with us in May for 38 years, they have a way now to see the newsletter, to see the podcast, to be informed. And if they're not informed, they go to our website and they find our old blogs and our old posts and understand that landmarks is changing. One of the topics I wanted to talk about how New York City is changing. Mayor Adams has been talking about the city of yes. So, a couple of things come to mind. The first thing is, casinos are coming to New York City,
which is crazy.
which is crazy. I mean, we have some small ones, right? At Aqueduct, we have one, not in New York City, but I consider Westchester New York City. And as a Westchester person, Westchester is booming, right? Design has ventured out. We have a couple of projects with Con Ed in Yonkers. We're working on a couple of big projects in White Plains. We're in Fairfield County in Connecticut. We're in Westport, Connecticut. We're in Garrison. So our brand has expanded because expediting is expediting, and code consulting, as long as we have the right book, we know the intent of the law. Whether you build there or you build here, same stuff. But getting back to that, the casinos. So before you could bring a casino, casinos were never in the zoning resolution. So if you looked and you went to the zoning use group to build a casino, the word casino didn't exist because they weren't allowed. There was no laws that allowed a casino. So we're in the midst of this change. Times Square is supposed to get one. Outside of Citi Field, they're building the soccer stadium, but where the old automotive junkyards were, that is getting dismantled as we speak. They tried rezoning it once. It didn't work. Now we're on to the next phase, which we're going to do some affordable, well, the city is going to do, not me, but the city is going to build. The first phase is going to be some affordable housing close to the 7 train. And then they're going to work their way to the west, right? And they're talking casino, they're talking schools, they're talking hotels. Rumblings are that Steve Cohen is involved in it as a financer with a development team. So, here we go again. New York City continues to evolve. It goes. They didn't have casinos. They jump in. It'll take a few years, but we're talking lower. On the east side off the FDR Drive, there's a couple of sites there. One in particular that they're trying to get passed for a casino and a hotel. So casinos are coming to New York City. What does that really mean? Well, it means a lot. It means that there's going to be jobs for people like us. There's going to be jobs for architects. There's going to be opportunities for developers. There's going to be opportunity to change a certain community like Flushing that was an eyesore where all the junkyards were. which are still a necessity because people still need junkyards. But so we have to find a way for you not to just dismantle a community of people that were entrepreneurs and had junkyards and have a viable business. We can't just take them and remove them and not give them another place to go.
Mhm.
And as we clean this up, as the sites get cleaned up, we have now this opportunity that we have a tennis stadium, we have City Field, we have a soccer stadium coming, and now we have the opportunity that very close to LaGuardia, that there will be, hotels and apartments and commercial and casinos. So, it's changing. And part of my job, I feel that being in the trenches every day, being and meeting with people, the power of people is incredible to me. And that's the part that I love. I love going to lunch with someone and just by coincidence we know someone together. And that turns into, well, can you introduce me? Can we do this together? And we talk about the changes that are going on in New York City, and that's just one. The next one is, I don't know about you, friend, but when I was a kid, we used to go to Manhattan, and you'd be, towards Madison Square Garden, and you'd see people pushing clothing through the streets. It was crazy. It was like the fabric of New York,
Mhm.
watching people pushing dresses down the street, and another person, pushing, shirts, and then, you know, a person coming out with samples on their shoulder of suits,
Mhm.
and that's slowly disappearing. So we now have all these buildings.
Yeah, it's New York City has, growing up, obviously, Manhattan always still has the same feeling. I feel like as New Yorkers, everyone complains, the city this, the city that, but
It's not the same.
it's not the same, but you hear it over and over again. But at the same time, when you take that drive into New York City, there is a powerful
Of course.
presence that it has.
It's got an energy.
Yeah, like I've always said, New York City is the largest brand in the world, right?
No
You
question.
go anywhere in the world and you say, "Oh, New York City," there's a very high chance someone knows exactly what you're talking about because they think, of the buildings and things like that. But you brought up casinos, and it's a very interesting thing because for so long, probably I think even before my time, casinos were always considered, New York City or New York is not going to have them, right? They were at Mohegan, they're at Foxwoods,
Right.
they were on Indian reservation areas. But what do you see it doing? Because it's a great topic to talk about for, like, you brought up developers and things of that sort. It's like, do you think there's going to be a shift in these developers that are building these skyscrapers? Do you see them trying to get into the
Well,
casino game?
I think that people have tried, different companies have tried to get into the casino game, right? So we know that it works and it doesn't work, right? So if you went to Vegas and there was a developer who built this iconic hotel, he opened it for 2 weeks and it closed. It's a huge gamble.
Now, let me ask you this. You brought up Vegas. It's a good point. Do you think New York City is trying to become the Vegas of the East Coast?
Absolutely not. I
Okay.
don't believe so. I believe that New York City is evolving into, Mayor Adams talked about life sciences, that this city needs to be worldwide, that we are into life science and developing cures for diseases and having space in New York City that the whole world knows that we're in the epicenter of that world. And we don't really talk about that because we talk about everything else. We talk about the theater, we talk about the arts, we talk about the museums,
Finance.
we talk about finance, we talk about a lot of different things. But I think that Eric Adams hit on something that's really important because we have been that and we need to expand that. So there is, again, talking about things that there's a buzz that on the Lower East Side, mid 30s in that area, that they want to create the hub there for life sciences.
Wow.
Incredible concept. They're going to change some of the zoning. Again, it has to get passed. It's got to get through, all the government, things that happen. But to me, that's always I'm a person who believes in optimism. So I think that if you talk about it and you get some traction, it can become a reality, just like the casinos. So we was touching on the garment district. We have all these buildings that are tall, tall windows, tall, floor to height ceilings that can be converted to apartments. They can be converted to hub centers. They can become science and technology areas. They can become office buildings. We talk about offices. I talked to a client of ours, and the other day we were talking about parking garages because there's new laws about the garages have to be inspected. So, that's they're going in, they're testing them, generates work. Hey, I got a crack here. Sisto, file an emergency application. I got to fix this. I got to do this. I got to do that. So these laws always, although people complain about them, they also create jobs. They create opportunity, and it also creates safety. A parking garage that has too many cars on it that has defective concrete columns is a problem. We've seen them fall down. So in that world, now we have these buildings in the garment district that if laws are passed, new zoning, which is being proposed as we speak, going to take some time, but there, instead of it being a manufacturing district, it now can become an office district. It can become a residential district. It could be mixed use. It could be science. So you can't leave the antiquated stuff alone. We got to find ways to take advantage of those areas and find out what the community wants. It's not just what the city wants, but what do the people that work there do? What do the people that live there? What do they want to see? So the voice of the community is really, really important.
And I think that that was a great point. You brought up community. I feel like the people that live there should, in a sense, have a say of what goes
Yeah,
on
this
because,
isn't a dictatorship.
yeah, because you're affecting their lives. So I think that a nice little closeout, a good question would be is, what is your bird's eye view of New York City in the next 10, 15, 20 years? What do you expect to see? Because since you're so involved and you're having so
Mhm.
many conversations behind closed doors with, people that are trying to develop, like, what are you seeing? What's your
Well,
prediction?
I believe that although developers say they're leaving New York City, developers will always develop. That's what they do. So they may take a pause in New York City, but you know, it's a city that never sleeps. I believe it. I live it. You and I know. I love your Instagrams about you going around and trying different foods and all kinds of things. Is that you and I know that if you want a slice of pizza at 2 in the morning, there's somewhere where we can go get one. And if we want to go get a snack somewhere, we can get it. Much different than not being here. So I think that long term, there are some issues right now that are big issues. Apartments aren't being rented because they're so we have a crisis because they're not renting them because they can't, and they can't because they can't make any money, so they're warehousing apartments. So that's a problem. Two is we're not building new stuff because we don't have a partnership with the state to give us tax incentives. So those developers have taken their stuff, they've moved away, and they want to come back. They all speak to me. Sisto, are you going to the building Congress? What are they saying? Are you speaking to Rebney? Are you speak? Everybody wants to be partners with this state. So the state has to figure a way, again, like we did before, to partner up for us to build affordable housing and build market rate, and the developers will come back. I think that the commercial market, retail market is very tough right now. Dollar Tree's closing 1,000 stores, and
Wow.
that's throughout the country. But you would never think of a retailer like that to close stores. And one of the things that the retailer quoted was, it's not the rent, it's not the labor, it's freight.
Wow.
Our cost to bring products from somewhere else here has literally gone up 40, 50%.
That's
we
insane.
can't we can't pass it along to the customers
No.
because we're already, a budget type store. So that's what he quoted. That's pretty scary. So if you love to walk around Manhattan like I do, looking for a pizza shop, I walk around and go, wow, every other or every third retail store on the ground level is vacant. So, but I'm also an optimist. I believe that the city will do what they need to do to change some of these laws, and developers will find a way to repurpose their buildings. Owners of buildings will find ways. We're seeing that in the office to residential conversion, and we're also seeing it that even in some of the older office buildings that are in great locations, that some of them are not afraid to put money in and say, "Hey, we know some office buildings are still going to rent," and they're taking a deep dive, and it seems to be paying off for some of them. So, I think long term, it's a matter of getting certain laws into effect and getting the developers to come back here because they want to be here.
Absolutely. And I think with that, though, sis, you could definitely close it out. But it's going to be a very interesting, I guess, next 5, 10, 15 years to see what happens with New York City.
And it never stops.
No, it never will.
I've been in the business since 1987, so it evolves
Hmm.
and it organically changes depending on where we all as entrepreneurs can make money, and that's what development is about. Um, and I believe that developers will find ways to start building affordable housing again because we need it. Um, and I believe that the city is the city of yes. It always has been. And we need to continue to bring casinos in and make those changes so that we evolve and that we're not we're not way behind. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sisto Says, powered by Design 2147. If you're looking to get some permits, approvals in the New York City area, Westchester, Connecticut, give us a shout. Look us up on the design2147.com website for our new release. And thank you for tuning in.